Now, prehistoric ruins near the ancient West Bank city of Jericho have been given World Heritage status. The decision was made after a UN conference vote just past Sunday. Now, the development has already angered authorities in Israel, which controls a territory that is administered by the Palestinian Authority. James Vassina reports.
For many Palestinians, it was long overdue, as the site of al-Sultan, just outside the city of Jericho, gets added to UNESCO's World Heritage List. Residents of the West Bank celebrate a double success in the Israeli-occupied territory.
This is both a political and a cultural victory. There was a fierce battle with the Israelis during the past month to prevent Jericho from being registered on the Heritage List. But scientific research, excavations, and the archaeologists have proven we were right about Palestinian history.
Jericho began its application for the World Heritage status 3 years ago, and Sunday's decision angered Israeli authorities, who accused UNESCO of making a political move, vowing to reverse the organisation's decision. The prehistoric ruins at al-Sultan date back to at least 9,000 BC, making them older than Egypt's pyramids.
al-Sultan has exceptional universal value because it's the very first example of a city. This is where man first came up with the idea of using stone to build a city, where man came out of the caves and created a civil society bringing people together. This all happened in al-Sultan.
It's the fourth Palestinian site to be adorned with the World Heritage emblem, adding to the town of Hebron, the village of Bateh, and the birthplace of Jesus in Bethlehem.
We can now bring in France 24's Shirli Sitbon. Shirli, great to see you. UNESCO says its decisions are not political, and they are taken on with a scientific basis, and they're neutral decisions. What can you tell us?
Yes, they are trying to dissociate. Of course, in many areas in the world where there is conflict, of course, archaeological facts, these heritage sites, they have a different importance. It's not just important to preserve this prehistoric sites. For them, it has a meaning also politically today. When you claim lands, if UNESCO says it's a Palestinian land, it makes a difference. If it says it's in Palestine, it's different. If it says it's a Jewish site or a Christian site, it's different. Now, this time, it's not a Jewish site or a Christian site. It's way, way older. It's prehistoric. And UNESCO has tried to use terms to dissociate and take the politics out of there. It says, yes, this is prehistoric. The other sites, the Jewish site, Christian sites, are nearby. They're not here, meaning Israelis and Palestinians, you are not involved. This is science, and we want to preserve this site no matter what, because it's in humanity's interest. But they have also used different terms. A few years ago, so we saw in the story we just saw that the importance of this site, of course. But a few years ago, also in the West Bank, there was a case that was handled very differently by also UNESCO, but not the current director, Audrey Azoulay, but the previous director. And at the time, it was more politicized. For example, this is in the West Bank with Rachel's tomb. This is Benjamin Netanyahu at the time trying to say that historic sites in the West Bank are actually Israeli sites. And UNESCO said, no, these are Palestinian sites. And in their documentation, they said this is Palestinian. The Israelis got out of UNESCO after a few years, and this was for them a scandal. But today, UNESCO uses very clear terms. It says these are sites in Palestine, and historians working for UNESCO determine exactly what is going on, so nobody uses this decision for political means. Of course, everybody is using this for political means, because the Palestinians say this gives us historic legitimacy, the Israelis say this is a scandal, it distorts history, so this goes on. But of course, those are images from UNESCO's meeting this week. And Israel and Palestine are not the only places involved. Also, there's Ukraine and other areas where there's conflict. And UNESCO says, this is our mission, protecting historic sites from wars, from conflict, and various things.
Now, you have one specific example of where this was used, a site in Uganda, which was an ancient king's tomb.
Yes, yes. So the first images are dramatic. They're from 2010. There was a fire in this historic site, and the fire damaged very largely the site. So it was first a king's palace, and then a king's tomb, the Bugando kings in Uganda then, in Kasubi near the capital. And when this happened, there was a catastrophe. This site was already on the UNESCO Heritage List. UNESCO brought a team to the site, and they decided after a while they had a plan to rebuild it from what was left there. And we can see some images from today because it looks completely different. It looks the way it's supposed to look. It was rebuilt. Of course, it was scientific and historic work done to build it exactly the way it used to be. It was visited also by local officials, by UNESCO officials. The rituals and various ceremonies continue at the site. And basically, this is what UNESCO does. It's supposed to also preserve, rebuild, and protect for the future. Find the funds also to protect. Funds for this came from Japan. And it's not just the rebuilding that took several years. It's also a plan to educate local populations and train them on how to put an end to fires, something that can happen very easily. So this is part of the work of UNESCO, and also protecting other sites from earthquakes, from global warming today, thinking ahead, and that way World Heritage is protected for many, many decades, maybe centuries. It's been going on for more than 60 years now.
Thank you very much for that, Shirli. Shirli Sitbon there.